Happy Wednesday, and we are back with another Boundless Brains author chat. I am your host, Dr. Pamela Gurley, president and founder of the Brown Girl and Brown Boy Literacy Foundation. And we are partnering, we are partnering with Kevin Craig West and Eric Volweiler for our Boundless Brains campaign. And we have an opportunity to chat with another author who was generous to donate books to our drive. Welcome, Malika Williams. How are you this morning?
I'm great. How are you?
I am good. So introduce yourself to our audience and let everybody know about your book, and we're going to get this conversation started.
Okay, yes, I am Malika Williams, born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. I am the founder of a nonprofit called the L.I.V.E Outreach, where we empower and mentor youth within the foster care and underserved communities. I'm also the author of an autobiography called I'm Just Trying to Live, which provides insight on my life as a teenager growing up in the city of Detroit in the foster care system.
Okay, and so you donated books to our drive. Why did you find it important for our youth and our children to read your books?
First, I think literacy is extremely important. So I'm always trying to find ways and to encourage that, right? So I always think it's important to allow children to see that not only we were once children at some point, and it's very important to provide that experience. So maybe it can help someone else not make some of the decisions that I did make. Because in the book, not only was I in foster care, I also experienced being a teen mother. And also, I was incarcerated by the time I was 17 years old. So it had a lot of statistics of what my life would have been. So just basically allowing them to see that I changed the narrative to my story. Even though the story was going one way, I had to make a conscious decision to be better for not only my child, but also for myself in order for him to have a productive future. So I think it's important to kind of let people know about your trials and tribulations and kind of stand in that, in your truth, because we all go through life things. And it was a lot of moments in the book too that's kind of like, embarrassing or things that most people wouldn't like to talk about. But I think uncomfortable conversations is what we need to start having, especially in the African American community.
Oh, I 100% agree. So you talked about it being embarrassing for you to share some of these stories. What was it like for you having to relive some of the things that you began to write about your life? And how were you able to process through those things?
I think that when you experience certain type of traumas, and life go by, you kind of put some things in the back of your mind. So writing this book definitely stirred up some emotions that I didn't know that was there, and it did allow me some moments where I kind of wasn't writing as frequent. It did take me some years actually to get all the strength to do this, but the pandemic encouraged that since we had a lot of extra time to just go ahead. It was a goal of mine to complete it, but I caught myself a few times breaking down just because I didn't recognize that it was so much still hurt there, and it was almost like reliving it and telling the story and kind of getting in detail. Is kind of like, how did I get through that? I can't believe I went through that. And then you go through that emotion where you kind of like, you go through the trauma and then you kind of have a proud moment. I kind of had a proud moment like, wow, I finally came through that dark cloud. At that time when I was going through that, I mean, it seemed so dark. I couldn't imagine getting through that, and just now being able to reflect on that, it was actually humbling.
And at what age were you when you first went to foster care?
14.
And so were you adopted or did you phase out?
So, growing up, I grew up with both of my parents in the home. It was drug abuse and violence and things in the home. So I was very much conscious of who my family was or where I come from. So I always want to make that clear.
Mhm.
So when I went to foster care, I went to originally when I got into the system, I ended up being in Vista Maria for about 6 months. And then I ended up going to a foster home, and was kind of like from foster home to foster home. And then when I ended up being pregnant, the foster home I was in, she wasn't able to take on a responsibility of me being pregnant and all the things that came with it. So I ended up in another group home, which was called, at the time, it was called Denby Salvation Army Center. I don't think it's in existence anymore, but it was like a shelter for like families, and then they had like um, another part that was for mothers that were in the foster care system. So I got to be with other teen moms as well that were kind of like in the same similar situation as me, which it didn't make it as bad because I didn't feel like, I was the only one going through that. And after having my son close to about 9 months after having him, then I ended up getting into some trouble where I ended up facing 2 felony charges. And when the state of Michigan tried to come and be a representation to the courts about, hey, we are her temporary guardians, the judge words were, she got into this mess up under you guys' custody. I will not be releasing her to you guys. So I pretty much got out of jail in March, and my 18th birthday was in May. So they pretty much just released me to the world with no resources, no type of nothing. Yeah. So I pretty much could have went back into the same type of cycle and system because I didn't have no support, or it was just really, really difficult, especially coming home and having a baby and all of that. So I never was adopted. I never actually was initially like released or anything. It was just pretty much like, hey, you got a few more months. You be 18, pretty much you're on your own.
Wow. And so what was it like for you first kind of stepping into this world? Did you immediately have your son back after you got out of jail, or how did that manifest for you in terms of like your first year out?
So with the jail sentence, I was given 5 years probation.
Mm-hmm.
First year I had to do in jail, which me going to court and all the things I was doing, they gave me some time served. So I didn't have a whole lot of time I got sentenced. So I had to do anger management, and I had to do a psych evaluation. These were all stipulations for my probation. So that was part of that. So kind of having those coping mechanisms, because I feel that I was very angry because of my circumstances. I had been through a lot. I had experienced a lot, and violence and anger was the only expression that I had ever pretty much been taught to be able to cope with my emotions. Mm-hmm. So it was an ignorant factor on my end. I didn't have any other coping mechanisms, or I hadn't been taught any at that time. So it was the anger management definitely allowed me to pick up more coping mechanisms with dealing with coping skills and things. And then while I was incarcerated, by me being a foster kid, my son temporarily became a ward of the state, where his paternal grandmother had to step in and get him. So me and her had a pretty good relationship. So she was open and willing to help me transition from, the parenting role back into the parenting role when I came home. And so like I was just more motivated, like, hey, I need a job. I need to really get stable, because the people that was letting me live with them, it was a generous thought, but it was kind of like not the most stable situation for myself, let alone for my child. And so I ended up, one of my friends' mother was like, hey, I know somebody who might can get you doing a housekeeping job at a hotel. And it was for a Marriott at the time. And I ended up basically applying for a job there and ended up getting in there. And I ended up working for Marriott, like transferring different positions and things. But I worked for Marriott for like over 15 years. So.
Okay. Oh, I love it. Your story is so dynamic. Is that what created the Live outreach, or the L.I.V.E. outreach that you founded?
Yes. So the L.I.V.E. outreach, honestly, I always say that it is a program that was designed for a younger version of myself. Mm-hmm. Because I just feel like essentially we know that the youth, and especially in underserved communities, that they have less resources and things like this is, something that's not, is common, we know this. But I felt the need to particularly look at the foster kids because I think just because not necessarily because you're not in the system, it's a lot of children that don't live with their parents. Like it's some kids that are being raised by aunts and uncles, grandparents, things like that. And even though they're not in the system, they still have some of the emotional trauma and baggage like abandonment and just all of those type of things. And I feel like those things is something that need to be highlighted because when I was going to school, nobody knew that I was in foster care. Like nobody knew that. Like nobody asked about what was, nobody, you see your friends and you live, they really wasn't, nobody never really checked for that. So I think about that so much about how many people you be around and then you find out like, oh, I was a foster kid. So like even as adult now, I communicate with people and they be like, oh, I was adopted or I was in foster care. It's like way more common than what people talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just definitely, I always just kind of wanted to put some identification on it because, I think it's a very unique demographic that a lot of people don't talk about. And so even with this nonprofit, I do a lot of just outreach advocacy, right? Because I feel like I have a little bit of experience with a little bit of everything, like being incarcerated. So I talk to people about, people's experience being incarcerated, some of the things you might have to deal with, people say, so for an example, I got some medical students that are interested in returning citizens and how they can provide essential medical care for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had to basically have a very serious conversation about the demographic of people that you might serve, some of the trauma, mental illness, some of the things that you really might have to deal with that is not like your normal regular typical doctor visits, right? So I think that utilizing those experiences to provide some insight so we can provide long-term solutions is pretty much how I allow Live to be birthed. And then I just kind of think that a lot of times things that people don't want to talk about, I'm always okay with having those uncomfortable conversations because I feel like how's we gonna really get any resolution if we don't never have any conversations about them? So
Yes. Yeah, change definitely happens when we can either share knowledge or have those difficult conversations. So I definitely agree. What does LIVE stand for?
learning to innovate while creating valid, extraordinary people.
Wow. Okay. I love it. I just wanted people to know because we're talking about live consistently, but I want people to actually know what it means because it gives such value back to your community, in which your community can then leave that community and take it to another community. So it's almost like a chain reaction of information. So this makes me ask, what made you decide, yes, I would like to contribute to the Boundless Brains project?
I thought that it was really, really dope. Definitely, I always want to support, you know, um, literacy and then African American like myself. I think that is really, really great because I feel like our kids really do need that encouragement about reading and writing. So, just to give you a little background about myself, I sit on the board of the library for the city of Harper Woods as a board of trustee. Um, I also sit on the board of a organization in Chicago called Literacy Legacies, and what they do is they assist kids in their urban community to be able to publish their own books. So right now, actually, I'm working with Lucas. He's almost finished. He will be a self-published author this year. He's 11 years old. He's so dope. And he lives in Milwaukee, so we does virtual conversation, but it has been a really, really great experience. And I just love that he is really just all into it, and he used his imagination. And I mean, the story. So he did the story, and at the end, we kind of been reading through the story together to kind of see what we can add. And I don't know, it's been more excited for me than I think it is for him, but one day we got off the phone after I mentored him, and his mother texted me and said, "You have my baby's self-esteem. I mean, you have his self-esteem through the roof." And I just want to thank you for that. I think it's very important to take a village, right? And even though I think he got some awesome parents, and I think they're doing a fabulous job, it made me feel good that my little part of what I'm doing is assisting, and ultimately in his future, he won't forget me, just like I definitely won't forget him.
Oh yeah, I love that contribution that he's going to have and the contribution that you're providing him to have to kind of establish his future. I think that when you can have a child to be able to read and not, and then write their own stories, it gives us an opportunity to have a young mind cultivate their own stories, which have value. And I believe in literacy that we have an opportunity to, like you, enrich the young minds of our future leaders, which is that's what they are. And literacy is not always about reading and writing. It's about understanding all the complexities which you undergo when you're writing a book. So I definitely commend you on stepping out to actually have young minds want to write books. So for your, you have more than one book, correct?
No, just this one
Is it
book.
just the one book? Okay, what's next for you? Do you plan on continuing to write,
So
or?
I do want to do a children's book. I really was considering a children's book. I think that my daughter is into art. So I have 4 kids, 2 adult children and 2 still school bound kids. But my 20-year-old daughter, she used to be so into art, and I was thinking maybe to entice bringing back an old thing to see if she maybe can illustrate my book, right? And it's so many lessons that I want to provide, right? But I'm trying to think what would be like the best lesson, as far as I think it might be like a self-worth, empowered type of book, right? Just to kind of be okay with the skin that you're in. I
Mhm.
think that that's uh, a huge, by me mentoring and working with a lot of kids, I kind of feel like it's hard for them to really be themselves and really love themselves and really know what that looks like consistently. Um,
Mhm.
so I definitely think that it's important to have some tools, even with the younger kids, because instilling in that in them very early makes it much easier transitioning when you have those different trials and tribulations. Is because it's something that's already been taught to you. So that's more what I'm thinking for the future. I'm hoping 2025 that will be a goal that is accomplished.
Why 2025? That's not,
I'm giving myself like that's my max to not to have it complete. I'm trying to be still realistic.
okay.
Um, I'm hoping sooner than that, but I'm like deadline, right?
Okay. Yeah, you definitely have to give yourself those deadlines. I mean, I think for me, I've given myself deadlines, and I'm like, okay, because other things happen. So, with the Boundless Brains project, one of the things that we're hoping to do is get our authors in where they're going to donate books. What would that experience be like for you in your mind? Like, what would you want to experience if you have an opportunity to go into the school where you donated your books or organization?
I would love to maybe have a small group um, of kids that might could give me some necessary feedback.
Hmm.
Some kids that's probably in that kind of like high school, because it's kind of more for people that's probably in that high school realm. I feel like where you kind of get a lot of the peer pressure for a lot of that self image. You want to be popular type of thing. I would love the feedback as far as some of their challenges and things, because of course we know that teen pregnancy been around before us, right? Gonna be behind when we leave here, right? But I feel like it's a shift because I didn't grow up in the cyberbully era, right? So I have
Hmm.
no idea about, growing up and you seeing somebody on social media and they portraying like they have a certain type of lifestyle. So then it puts you in the pressure of feeling overwhelmed that you're not doing enough is not being done. And the reason why I say that is because like I have, like I said, young adult children. And my son he is 24, and he was telling me about a lot of the young ladies that he went to school with want the cosmetic surgeries, even though they haven't had any children. They don't even look bad. They just want to have these surgeries because in society it tells you this is how you're supposed to look.
Yeah.
And so that's why I noticed that this is like a self-image thing and an empowerment thing. Like that's a big deal. So um, I think feedback from the kids, and as the times are constantly changing, I think that's really would be like a blessing to know, like, what are some of the challenges that you face? What would you like to see more, as things as far as our position, right? Us as community leaders, what can we do more to make life a little bit more, less confusing for you?
Hmm. Oh, I 100% agree. It's amazing what Especially, I'm like you. I'm before the age of cyberbullying and all of those things. But I also, even coming into the beginning where there was MySpace, and I go back that far. Um,
Yeah.
One thing that I will say is that something we did not have even on the onset of social media was the how they define beauty. It's really changed now, in how they define beauty, and black hair and black skin. And I think it's really taking a toll on our younger ones, especially. I mean, it's taking a toll on adults. And so it's not, I think for us as authors, literacy is now expanding, to empower and embrace, or help others embrace themselves in a different way, because social media definitely has a way to shift the narrative of, the standard of beauty, the standard of what success looks like, and all of these other things. Through your organizations, through your books, um, let's say in the next 5 years, what are you hoping to accomplish in terms of what you can give back to the community?
Well, ultimately, I definitely want to be able to provide where it's expanded, right? Multiple of partnerships and collaborations, because I know that we can't get the word out. We can't get a lot of things done without each other. So I definitely want a strong network, and a strong, partnerships and collaborations, and just kind of like having that trust. I've gained that trust within the community. Just constantly engaging and building with the community. Of course, um, my goal with like any other nonprofit is securing funding. Um, I have a few projects that I'm looking at because, of course, I want to be more flexible. I want to be more accessible, to the demographic that I serve. So I want to definitely have like maybe a hub to a certain extent. In this hub, it wouldn't be just things, of course, because I feel like with book club, because that's one of my programs. Book club consists of like storytelling.
Mhm.
One of our main things is comprehension, because one of the things I noticed with a lot of the kids, from even parents, is that the kids can read it, right? But are they comprehending what is being said and the different words or whatever's going on? Do you know what this means? So I'm just identifying that. And yeah, I just think that just constantly keep growing. It's kind of like, I used to think I could say what was going on or what would I think in 5 years, but like how life been, I just kind of feel like I will allow God to guide however it ended up turning out to be. Because really, it's not really my plan, because it was really never my vision.
Mhm.
So I kind of just go with the flow. I know that it's going to be definitely a blessing, and the whole objective is to reach more people, and if change lives in any kind of aspect that we can. I know that it was a lot of people that have been very influential in my life that really didn't know me, but they might have seen something in me, and I just kind of want to be that for somebody else, to be that voice, or maybe that voice of reasoning, or just and like, you can be in a room full of 100 people, but maybe that one person took what you said really as something that may change their life, and that's pretty much, hopefully, that's the goal.
I love it. I love it. So, how can everybody get your book? How can they follow you on social media? How can they connect with you?
Okay, so I'm on all social media platforms. Of course, Twitter, which is X now, the Live Outreach, social media, the Live Outreach, and also Facebook, the Live Outreach. You can go to the website, www.theliveoutreach.org. And also, the book is on Amazon. Like I said, it is called I'm Just Trying to Live. And also, you can email me at theliveoutreach@gmail.com. So I can definitely get you a signed book. So you can email me at that for that.
We definitely thank you for swinging by and being able to chat with us. If you are interested in donating a child or youth book, that feel free to hit that link, the bit.ly link, Boundless Brains book donation. And once you do that, you will get a thank you letter, because that's the in-kind donation form. So I mean, it is tied to a 501c3. So we definitely make sure that if you have an opportunity to write off your, as a tax deductible expense, then hey, we want to encourage people to have a reason to donate. But I even feel like it's important that it should not matter. Our children and our youth need us authors, whether it's, no matter what the genre is for your children's book. Teen books are very important. Uh, and so I'm grateful to be a part of this, and I hope you be a part of it as well. And Malika, we definitely thank you so much for swinging by again. You all follow her, get her book. It's time to make a difference for our kids. Buy the book if you have teen children. And I think your book will be great for, sending through the either CASA or CAJA programs, because those are the children that it will have the impact of the most. Because look where you are right now, and the evolution of your life is absolutely amazing. And we love what you're doing, and we're here to support. So you
Thank
all
you.
catch us next time on our author chat. I have to look at the calendar to see where the next one is. But we'll definitely have a few more authors that will be coming on very, very soon. Happy Valentine's Day. Have an amazing week. Malika, stand by.